And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome to your LSU Football Fix. I'm Preston Guy, staff writer at TigerBait.com. Join with me as always every Monday night, although tonight it's a Tuesday night because we weren't about to miss the god-awful, ugly Saints game last night. Zack, Nagy, publisher at Sports Illustrated. That is LSUcountry.com. Zack, what's going on, man?
Man, not too much. Obviously, like you said, had an opportunity to check out the Saints last night. Disappointing result from a NOLA kid like myself, but we move on, and now we kind of start to shift focus to Ole Miss this week and get back on track with some LSU football.
Certainly hoping for a bounce back there. I myself watched the game. Number one, Kelsey's laterals really start to piss me off after a while. They're unreal. Cool story for the defensive tackle guy, whose brother is a backup singer for Taylor Swift, and he got a cooler, turnover there. But man, I just don't know what's going on with that offense. It looked so good the first 2 weeks, and we might get a chance to look at Spencer Rattler this weekend. So, anyways, that's enough Saints talk. LSU is, of course, going to give a big bounce back, or opportunity for a big bounce back for Louisiana football fans. Tonight, we've got plenty to discuss. Before we get started, I got to thank my title sponsor of the show before we get going, guys. Y'all know Celebrity Theaters makes this entire show possible, guys. And, as Louisiana's only locally owned and operated theater with locations in Baton Rouge and Ruston, guys, you're guaranteed to see every time a clean facility, better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. Of course, the Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade featuring over 50 games. It's the largest in town. They've got a bar featuring wine, beer, and frozen drinks. And of course, they've got those oversized leather reclining seats, which are a must for me. Don't forget, they got the Dolby Atmos 3D sound system for if you're looking for those really good movies, get you a really good sound system. So tonight, we're going to open with some Nagy notes, as we like to do, and maybe get some insight on player interviews. Zack was there, boots on the ground today, so we'll get a little bit of that. We'll talk about possible injuries in this game. Should be a big recruiting weekend too, by the way. We're going to get names coming in, but right now we're still waiting on guys to make their announcements and all that good stuff. So y'all make sure to tune in to TigerBait.com throughout the week to get those updates. We're going to talk a little bit about the framing of the game. I think is particularly interesting. Season outlook with a win versus a loss. I think this could be a tale of two paths. Of course, we're going to get to some score predictions tonight. So, with that being said, Zack, what you got for me, man?
Yeah, look, today we had the opportunity to sit back and talk with Savion Jones, Garrett Nussmeier, Mason Taylor, etc. And really my main takeaway was just how locked in they are for this matchup. Obviously, look, everybody's going to sit back and talk about just the opportunity to get revenge from last year, but the main message from this program is that they're moving forward. And it's just an opportunity for them to showcase their skills and rebound off of a week one loss in a primetime game. And now you get the opportunity to have another big-time game against a big-time opponent. And look, we got to talk to Greg Penn. We got to talk to Mason Taylor, like I said. Garrett Nussmeier was the main takeaway, of course, but just their focus and attention to detail heading into this game. And the discipline was on full display, just having the opportunity to sit back and talk with them. And look, we had a bunch of people in there, and there was a different feel than we've had the previous week. So I'm really excited to see what they have to say. And for me, getting the opportunity to sit down and talk with Garrett Nussmeier and just listen to him and just how poised he is, how prepared he is for the moment was something that stood out to me like a sore thumb. He returned to Baton Rouge for a reason. And for me, one of those reasons was really to get to play in games like this, to be able to be the QB1 and prepare for a big-time matchup, a top 15 game against a really fiery Ole Miss squad. And so you're playing a top 10 team. You're going to be under the brightest lights in America. All eyes are going to be on this SEC game. And Garrett knows that. And he alluded to that, just how you have to kind of sit back, relax, and breathe and not necessarily worry about just everybody watching you. It's about attention to detail and being disciplined. So for me, I'm excited to see how they come out and roll. Obviously, keys to the game-wise, we'll get to that later. But it's about coming out and punching him in the gut early and Garrett talked about that. Greg Penn talked about that. Savion Jones talked about that. So Ole Miss has proven that they don't respond too well to adversity. Exhibit A was that Kentucky game. So out, punch them in the gut, make them face some adversity. I think LSU would put them in a solid position to come out and get a big time victory.
Let me ask this: Did you get a good look at Ole Miss for those two games?
I have. I've got a chance to watch them numerous occasions now, and obviously those first 3 games of the season were gimmies, and you go and you play
right. And I don't even care about those gimmies. I don't. They give you nothing.
It's not right.
Right. So I look. It's just bizarre to me. I'm just, here's the deal. We have a little bit of a circle of suck going on here with Kentucky, South Carolina, and Ole Miss that they all beat each other, right?
Right.
How did Kentucky just absolutely rattle Ole Miss to the point where they won the game, right? And clearly got that offense looking slow. Couldn't do anything against South Carolina, and then Ole Miss goes to South Carolina and just beats the tar out of South Carolina. That is just one thing that's baffling me.
To me, I think it's just a matter of what team you're going to get on any given day. And Mike asked a really good question yesterday to Brian Kelly, and it was just about the parity in LSU, in SEC football right now. And it's wide open. You never know which version of a team you're going to get day in and day out. And look, for a team like Ole Miss, if they don't have Trey Harris this weekend, you're getting a completely different program. So for LSU, they're going to have to sit back and dissect that Kentucky game plan and try to implement it as best as they can. Obviously, personnel-wise, it's going to be a little bit different because just athletic-wise, the secondaries are going to be different and whatnot. But for me, you look at that Kentucky game plan and what they did against Ole Miss, and you try to replicate that as best you can.
Yeah, and Brian Kelly, of course, kind of dodged the question a little bit and didn't want to say it was because of NIL and transfer portal why there's more parity. Matt Rule did not pull back a punch. Did you hear his quote at all?
I didn't. What did he have to say about it?
All right, so he was like, guys, just so y'all know, we saw Alabama lose to Vanderbilt this weekend. That hadn't happened in 40 years. Reason for that is he's talking about, put a hypothetical. He used Blue Mountain State as the example team, which I find hilarious. If you ever watched that show? But anyways, he's talking about how one blue blood team might offer a guy $50K and you come in and you might earn a starting spot, you might not, or maybe they use that name brand, right? Or maybe he's a guy who comes in and develops over a few years, or these guys are looking at a school like, say, Vanderbilt, and they're like, well, we'll offer you 3 or 4 times what the blue blood is offering, because we really need you in a quarterback. And then all of a sudden you get a guy like Diego Paiva playing for Vanderbilt. He thinks it is causing a lot more equity and parity because, guys aren't just making the decision about the name brand school anymore. Sometimes there's second tier players, who can choose to take a bigger paycheck. It's not just about the intangible factors anymore. So I found that quote from Matt Rule to be very interesting. And I tend to lean toward Matt Rule's perspective on this, not Brian Kelly's. I think, we're going to see a lot more of it. By the way, what a crazy weekend in college football, man. I hope you took some time in the bye week to not work and watch football. What a great weekend to not be working, right?
It was fantastic. Getting the opportunity to just check out all these different games. Obviously, Vanderbilt's one that steals headlines, but Arkansas, Tennessee is a big one. Man, what about A&M? Just
A&M beat the tar out of Missouri.
Yeah, that was one that stood out to me. So yeah, a lot of parity in the SEC. A lot of teams that are kind of showcasing different skill sets than I didn't think we'd have. So here we are. Now it's time for LSU to kind of lock in and start to do what they can, kind of as we enter the meat of SEC play, if you want to put it that way.
Well, here's a super chat from Dane Bergeron, who's a longtime supporter of the show. We appreciate him as always. Kentucky hit a dart hard and often it rattled him. Now, that's the kind of stuff that gives me hope. So I actually think LSU's D-line and front seven as a whole should do all right against Ole Miss. The parts that give me a concern, that give me pause, it's the DBs, man. Especially if Trey Harris plays, which that's up in the correct me if I'm wrong. Ole Miss, they said today that today he wouldn't be playing and he's questionable, and they don't know. So, man, we'll just have to see. I think that LSU has the potential to rattle them at the front seven, but I think those DBs are going to have trouble. What's your take on that, Zach?
Well, I like that comment for a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, getting to him and hitting him in that game can give you a schematic approach, but my approach would be completely different, and it would be the fact that LSU's coming off a bye week, man. Like, they're well rested. You had guys that could hit the recovery table and rehab nagging injuries and get back on track, and Ole Miss didn't have that opportunity. They had to go up against one of the most physical teams in the country in South Carolina, and have a guy like Jackson Dart get beat up, tossed around. A guy like Trey Harris suffer a little nagging injury. So for me, it puts LSU at an advantage, just having the opportunity to sit back, somewhat relax. Obviously, you're game planning, you're hitting the practice field. Brian Kelly said last Tuesday they hit the practice field for 2 hours, full pad. So it wasn't necessarily a bye week for them per se. But when it comes to a Saturday at home, getting the opportunity to sit back and relax, it's huge. So schematically, yes, you want to follow what teams like Kentucky and South Carolina did to get to him. But for me, I look at it as an advantage, just the opportunity to kind of hit the recovery table and rehab.
Yeah, and look, man, the framing of this game, think about this. Think about Ole Miss's last 2 weeks versus LSU's last 2 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks ago, Ole Miss plays Kentucky and gets punched in the throat. LSU plays South Alabama, who, respectable game and all, don't get me wrong, but I mean, South Alabama, and LSU takes care of business and cleans up a lot of things that we were looking for them to clean up in that game. Then next week, LSU gets a bye, while Ole Miss has to go to South Carolina. And I don't care that it was 27-3 and they took care of business and all that. South Carolina is a physical football team. They'll bite you in the knee. They'll bite some kneecaps off kind of team. You know what I mean? So I promise you, they're feeling it right now from that SEC grind, and LSU is not. And then you partner that with it's going to be nighttime in Tiger Stadium. Me and Mike were talking a little pregame before the show. It's like they usually give you 3 points for home field advantage. They probably give you 3.5 for Tiger Stadium. I'd wager to say they're probably giving LSU a full 5 points because of that, right? I mean, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, you alluded to that last week. We were talking about that 3.5 to 5 point range when it comes just to teams coming to Death Valley and playing there. So, yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing for me to add to that other than the fact that I completely agree. I double down on that.
By the way, the spread is anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 in favor of Ole Miss right now.
Yeah, it moved up to 3.5 today.
Yeah, I saw that, which means I guess that means money's coming in on Ole Miss, but be interesting to see how it plays out. Andy Whitaker says LSU wins 24-17. All right, do me a favor in the comment section here. Hit me with some score predictions. I want to get a vibe. What's the fan base feel? I feel like the fan base is probably about 50-50 split on if LSU wins this game or not. We'll get to our predictions a little bit later. I want to get to some comments here, though. All right. Steffi GBs with an interesting little profile picture there. Biggest game of the year. All right. There's a chance the LSU Alabama game has a higher ranking on the notch bar. There's also intangibles of that LSU Alabama game, such as setting the post Saban era tone. You don't want to come out and as soon as Saban retires, continue that streak of losing to Alabama, right? So there's a lot of that, but I think a win in this game could set your season on a completely different path. And look, we're seeing things. Alabama had a defensive lineman literally quit because they lost the van. And by the way, a guy LSU formerly recruited, Jaheim Otis. Hey, maybe a guy who could really be helping out LSU this year if you think about it. But I mean, yeah, I think if LSU wins this, they're all of a sudden on a playoff path, because if you look at this schedule, all right, Zack, where's the free win on LSU schedule?
There isn't one. And I was looking at that the other day. Everybody's just sitting back kind of talking about these gimmies like Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Florida. Look, you have to go to the swamp and play a team. No matter what you want to say about Billy Napier, no matter what you want to say about that team as a whole, going to the swamp isn't as easy as it may seem. Vanderbilt's obviously fresh off of a big win. Oklahoma, you don't know what team you're going to get, but they could be one that's clicking on all cylinders by the time the end of the year comes. Then you go at A&M, you have Bama, you have Arkansas on the road. Look, you have a challenging schedule ahead. there are no gimmies in the SEC this year. Everybody's well balanced. Everybody's talented. And I'm really excited to see how LSU starts to, kind of kick it into gear.
Look, man, I'm telling you, there's not a game that you have more than a 90% chance of winning. And there's not a game, honestly, that you have more than 90% chance of losing. There's no gimmies in either direction. LSU's going to have to execute and play well in tight games. I mean, that's just what it is, because Alabama looks beatable and Ole Miss definitely. I mean, they showed they were very beatable against Kentucky. So all of a sudden the two juggernauts you're really afraid of on your schedule don't look so juggernauty, but all of a sudden that Vanderbilt on November 23rd, hey, that looks pretty serious, doesn't it? Florida's shown pulse at times, although I don't even know if Billy Napier will be the coach by then.
Right.
We'll see if Tennessee has something to say about that this weekend. And then even Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma has looked good in spots. I mean, but you've got 3 top 15 teams you're playing in the next 4 weeks, man. Look, I'm just saying, getting a win at Ole Miss would do a huge boost for your trajectory. And I think in this portal era, I think keeping your team's head focused is going to be so much more important than it used to be, right?
Well,
Because players will literally quit on the team.
My thing is, hypothetically, if a team in the SEC this year loses 3 games, do you think that, due to the fact that most teams are pretty, not necessarily level, obviously there are outliers here, it's the SEC, but do you think a 3-loss SEC team could make the college football playoff this season?
Like a 1 in 5 chance, look, if there's more weekends like last weekend, absolutely it's
right.
happening. You know what I mean? I think you pretty much for LSU need to pencil in, if LSU gets in at 10-2, they're in 100%. You have one game to blow this year, right? If you lose 3, you need some help, or you need to look very impressive in the process. Like maybe a situation like, okay, well, you beat Ole Miss and Alabama, and you beat A&M, but then you got tripped up at Arkansas, and then Vanderbilt upsets you or something like that. You know what I mean? Like you have to have big wins.
It's all about the resume. I completely agree with that. I've been just thinking about it. Like, if you lose 3 games, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a hot topic of conversation. Come that pick'em time.
Let me throw another hypothetical out there, though.
What you got?
For 3 losses, let's say you go 10-2, make the SEC championship, and lose.
That was something that
that very well could get you in. In fact, I have a sneaky feeling, because do you remember back in the day where the SEC loser and the SEC championship would just plummet down to the bowl rankings? Like, I think LSU one year got sent to, they lost and they got sent to like the Chick-fil-A Bowl. They were like the 5th SEC picked because they took an extra loss. Was that 05? They got pummeled by Georgia in the SEC championship, and then all of a sudden you're looking, instead of an 11-1, you're talking about an 11-2 LSU football team, if I'm not mistaken, in 05. Or maybe it was 10-1, and then they dropped to 10-2 and won the bowl game. Anyways. I think there's going to be even more projections in place for losers of conference champions, being that now there's only 4 conference championships, and being that, those teams that lose their conference championships are, I mean, if you're in the playoff, you're a title contender. You know what I mean? So we're talking about title contenders, not just exhibition bowl games. Like, oh yeah, they deserve XYZ bowl game. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are going to start lobbying and say, well, that's really unfair that a team gets to sit at home, not play the number 1 team in the country, and make the playoff because of that. You know what I mean? Like, are we really going to push the team who sat at home in because they had 1 less loss than the team that did get into the SEC championship? I'm just saying, that conversation, we've had it for years, but it gets a lot more intense with the stakes being raised the way they are, right? So I could see that being one way a 3-loss team gets in for sure. Let's get some more comments here, because we've had some good ones here. Dane, of course. The only good thing about that Saints game was the fumble. That's what I was mentioning. Yeah, no, that was a fun moment for sure. But boy, my heart says 38-29. Is that good guys winning or bad guys winning? Let's see here. A lot of profanity in the comment section tonight. I don't think people like Ole Miss. Ole Miss struggling to running the ball when you have to line up the fridge 2.0 on goal line. Say, yeah, it's funny. A lot of teams use like these big old defensive linemen as fullbacks, and because the fullback position's kind of died. So I get it. I do. Let's see here. Carl Dunn. I'm just here so I won't get fined. You're gosh darn right, Carl Dunn. You're here so you won't get fined.
He's loyal.
Yeah, that's right. Carl's such a great guy, dude. Great supporter. I saw him. What game did I see him at? It was South Alabama. I ran into him after the game. Good guy. Randall Deedon, LSU, 31-27. 20. Oh, in overtime from Danny Girl. Golly. All right. Let's see here. And let's see your explanation here. Our best chance is to lose to Arkansas because they shouldn't be concerned ahead in a head-to-head to get an SEC championship. That's a good point, too. That's a good book because, like, I was taking the approach of, like, beefing up your resume earlier. Right. No, but that's kind of the same angle, though. Yeah. If you think about it, like, you get to beef up your – it's almost like a bad loss doesn't hurt you as much as a big win helps you. So it used to be back in the day, like your ugly losses were like, that's going to kill you, like no matter what Alabama would do, a loss to Vanderbilt is always going to be there, but I'm not so sure anymore. I think it's almost going to be like bracketology for basketball because so many teams are getting in now. And it's, they want to talk about what you've accomplished, not where you came up short. You know what I mean? Let's get to our first ad break real quick. We've got great comments going on tonight, so y'all continue to get there. We got plenty to talk about with this matchup and whatnot going on. But guys, first I got to thank Celebrity Theaters being our title sponsor, making everything we do possible on the LSU Football Fix. Guys, they got their weekly promotions going on. Monday is Senior Savings Day, where it's $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tuesday is Bargain Tuesday, where you get discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. Wednesday is College Night, where admission for college students after 5 p.m. is $5. And of course, Thursday at the Baton Rouge location is their Thirsty Thursday. Guys, really happy to tell y'all about this sponsor who's sponsored all TigerBait shows this year. All TigerBait shows are going to be proudly brought to you by Struby's Seafood and Steaks. Located on 107 3rd Street in downtown Baton Rouge, Struby's prides itself on providing a 5-star dining experience for a reasonable price. Struby's is locally owned with ownership in the building daily, taking a level of pride in the food and service you just won't see from any corporate establishment. Struby's features a full menu of specialty meats, including USDA Prime Black Angus steaks, 100% certified Wagyu New York strip. And for those looking for something outside of red meat, they offer items such as the dry-aged pork chop, which, by the way, I got to try with owner. Got some and let some of us share that with him the other day. It was fantastic. Black truffle lobster pasta, redfish, and plenty more. Book your reservation online at strubys.com and make sure to let them know TigerBait sent you in. All righty. And of course, guys, I got to talk to you about Willy Wonka's Wonderland for an LSU fan, guys. Guys, look, the best place to get all your officially licensed LSU gear is Alumni Hall, and it's not particularly close. They're your ultimate shopping destination. They've got it all, from all the new Nike gear, Champion, Johnny O, Onward Reserve, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, hats, Yetis, more. They've got it all, guys. They've got nice polos you're looking for, the hats. I mean, you can shop at their store in Perkins Row or just go online anytime at alumnihall.com. And guys, I've got this discount code to share with you. You can use the code TigerBait, all one word, TigerBait, in store or online, and you're going to get 10% off your purchase. Go shop with my friends at Alumni Hall and use the code TigerBait to get in. And guys, they've got the Nike Pegasus LSU shoes. They just got them in stock a couple weeks ago. Of course, they come out with those every football season. Definitely recommend checking those out. Those suckers look sweet. All righty. back to the action. Hey, Pierce says he's going to Celebrity tonight. Look, Pierce, man, I'm not going to blow smoke up your you know what when I tell you it's the best theater. Understand the reason they're a sponsor of the show is because like I went there growing up back when it was a crappy theater, when it was oh boy, I'm about to make some people feel old here. Oak Cinema 8. And then they bought it as Celebrity and it got renovated and super nice. And I'd been going there for so long, I finally decided to reach out to the marketing girl and tell her how much I love it. And I said, I want to promote you. So that's how they came on board. Let's see here. Oh, look, we got more sponsor love here, man. Preston, I hate you for telling me. Mike for telling me about Alumni Hall. My bank account has been depleted. It's really cool stuff there, guys, and really high quality stuff there. Anyways, talking about injuries in this game, we talked about Trey Harris and how he's listed as questionable. I'm gonna tell you this: have you gotten a chance to look at the receiving stats for Ole Miss this year?
Pretty lopsided, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's very lopsided. Yeah, I was gonna say like. They've got he's their leading receiver with 885 yards. That is Biletnikov's pace.
Let it be known, like that's not just number one on Ole Miss. Like he leads the FBS in receiving yards at 895. Like he is that guy right now. Like the numbers he's putting up are historic. Like I can't say that enough. Like this is a Louisiana native, obviously.
That hurts.
But yeah, it figures that his numbers are that good coming from Louisiana. Not trying to show any bias, but Trey Harris 7 historic year. Obviously, you want to play the best of the best, and you don't prey on anybody to get hurt. But if he's out, that gives LSU a significant chance.
I like how you have to clarify that. You don't pray for anybody to get hurt.
Yeah, let me be clear. I do not want anybody to be hurt. You want to beat a team at full strength. Right. But if he's not active, then look, that's a big hurt for the people from Oxford.
17 yards a grab for him too, by the way. I mean, if you watch him play, he's been fantastic. Here's the bigger question. If he does play, who does LSU have to stop him?
I feel like you got to put your seasoned vet and Zack Alexander on him. That's really the only answer that I can think of. And can he stop him? No. Can he contain him? Hopefully. I don't think anybody's going to be able to stop somebody like Trey Harris. He's just playing – Trey Harris. He's just playing at that elite level of a player right now. So you try to contain him as best you can.
You know who I would say your best bet to stopping him is?
Did you say who?
Braden Swinson. Put Jackson
get to the quarterback.
There's not a DB on this roster who can cover him, is my point. Like, get some pressure. Dial it up. I think Blake's he's brought the right game plan to this team. And what gives me a lot of hope about Blake Baker and LSU's defensive future under him, look what's happening to Missouri's defense. Connor Wegman, I mean, he was not good at all against Notre Dame. And I watched that team. I'm like, man, this team's not good. Next week, Northern Illinois beats Notre Dame. Okay. And by the way, Northern Illinois has really since remember they ranked Northern Illinois because they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah. I'm just going to say yes. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Silliness. Right. Yeah. Anyways, they lost like 2 garbage games after that. So it's like, oh, maybe that was. Anyways, Texas A&M hung 41 on Missouri. I understand they lost a lot of personnel on that defense, but you can't tell me that's not coaching too. It really just give me hope that LSU lined up a good coaching staff. So Trey Harris being out, although I would be rooting for him to be in the game because I frankly root for everybody to be healthy and play their best and all that good stuff. Him being out would be a big blow because their next best receiver has 500 less yards. That's Antoine Wells, right? So I'm not saying that the other receivers aren't going to be good and Jackson Dart won't be able to pass the ball, but that's a major break for LSU if that holds up. Now, on LSU side of the ball, we haven't actually heard a whole hell of a lot on Chris Hilton or Caden Durham. But, I mean, look, here's the thing about Hilton, man. Based on everything we're hearing, he should be healthy, but, I mean, isn't he a bit of a unicorn at this point?
The injury report is Brian Kelly's been very mum on the subject this year when it comes to injuries. He describes them as lower body, upper body.
Sure.
It's the NFL approach, questionable day to day. He's doing it right. That's the SEC protocol and how they're doing it now. But the 3 guys that are going to be hitting the practice fields this week, starting today, is Caden Durham, shaking back from that foot injury.
Sure.
Zack Alexander, who's cleared concussion protocols.
Yep.
And then CJ Daniels. He's a guy who's really trying to work back from this knee injury. And he's had knee injuries in the past, and he re-aggravated it last week. So to get him back on the practice field would be huge. And we you got to have some receiver depth there, of course. And then the fourth guy to keep tabs on is, like you said, Chris Hilton, a guy who hasn't even made his season debut this year, had a stellar fall camp, starting caliber receiver, just about staying healthy. And I mean, I feel like he's been day to day since August. So I'm excited to see what happens with him. But you get your three guys back on the field, like Brian Kelly said, and Caden Durham, Zy Alexander, and CJ Daniels. You end up seeing what happens with Chris Hilton, but I think they held him out just until he was 100% for SEC play.
Right.
With Ole Miss. So
they said he could have played against South Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, he warmed up for UCLA, so it's just it's been such a confusing injury for me. I've seen, he was out there warming up, like I said, for UCLA week, didn't warm up versus South Al. They held him out of the game, so now I hope to see him on the field because he's a fantastic player and a fantastic person.
Well, let me give a little bit of PTSD for the slightly older Tiger fans. It's almost getting to like Trevante Valentine status, where like you hear about him for years and he's doing great, and we see him in practice and he looks great, and then you just never can get him on the field. Now, I'm not saying he's there yet. No, not yet. We got a little whiles to go before he gets there, but I think he brings an element that you don't have, that deep ball shot. And another thing about it is, when you're a deep ball threat like him, it's almost like, what's the point in rushing him back to the field if he's not 100%? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this adds a completely different element to your offense. Garrett Nussmeier and Chris Hilton have worked with the second team since they got to campus together a couple of years ago. So
right, and they had great chemistry.
They've developed significant rapport, and we saw that during fall camp. We saw that during spring. Like, those two guys are players that really shine together. And like you said, it adds a different element in the vertical game. And for me, as well as opening up the vertical game, it'll make defenders have to worry about him and open up the short game for Aaron Anderson, other guys like that, Mason Taylor for chunk yards. So getting him back on the field is a significant addition for this team. And I'm excited to see what he can do, because obviously you and I have sat here and talked about Chris Hilton for quite some time now. And I'm ready to kind of see it play out and see it happen in real life now, as opposed to back in fall camp.
Outside of Chris Hilton, who's your next best deep ball threat?
Kyron Lacey. I feel like
Kyron Lacey. Yeah, for sure.
Like, I feel like you can fall back on Kyron Lacey to be that physical deep threat receiver, but Chris Hilton is a vertical threat, and he beats you with the speed. He's got that track speed. So, like you said, completely different element added to this team when he returns, and I completely double down on that.
Yeah, and look, Kyron Lacey, I think, is more of a complete receiver. I think that's pretty fair to say, but I think Hilton is probably a little bit better of a deep ball threat, and it just adds, it makes you adjust for him, it makes you accommodate for him. It'd be great. By the way, I knew bringing up Trevante Valentine would cause a little stir in the comments, and that's exactly what we're getting here. Not there yet, people. We're not there yet. But just saying, just keep an eye on it. And Durham, look, of course, it makes you nervous about Durham, but I think he's fine. Right? Like, he's going to be good. I mean, he tweaked his ankle.
I think he's going to be good. It was a lower body injury. It was that foot. I'm intrigued to see what happens with him. But you need him on the field. He diversifies the playbook. He's been a key piece to this team over the last couple of weeks. So you get him back to 100%, you get him on the field, adds a whole different element to the playbook, gives you more creativity for Joe Sloan. You got to get him back for this big-time game in Death Valley, and I think he's trending towards kind of suiting up. And according to Brian Kelly, he practiced today. So I'm excited.
He has more than double your yards per carry than any other active running back. Now, I mean, it's uncanny. If you take away the 86-yard run last week or 2 weeks ago against South Alabama, he's still your leading rusher on the season. To me, it's just abundantly obvious. I don't know why we're playing cute with it. Caden Durham is your answer at running back, and frankly, I believe your cure to your anemic running game. I think that if you roll with him, you're going to get those 3 or 4 yards when you need it, because he fights through contact. He's a tough little gritty guy, man. I love what I'm seeing out of him. Let's see here. Let's get to a few comments here before I go down more notes here. Let's say Pierce says he's going to Celebrity tonight. $5 Tuesday has been a staple for years now. Oh, he's at the Ruston. Pierce, if you're on Twitter, tweet me a picture. Tweet me. I'll give you a retweet. I'll give you some love there, man. Here's a good one. Preston, speaking of coaching, I'm not impressed with the offensive play calling, especially in the red zone. What's your thought on Joe Sloan, what he's dialing up this year?
I think that's a kind of an open-ended kind of question. It's hard to answer is what I'm trying to say, because obviously when you go into games, you script your first 15 to 20 plays heading into it. So the first quarter of games, we've seen this offense come out clicking. And for me, it's proven. Obviously, last game you come out and score on the first play of the game. Second play of the game's an 86-yard touchdown or 86-yard play, stopped at the 1. So your first 15 to 20 plays that are scripted look fantastic. It's just in-game adjustments that are a little bit worrisome to me, and the play calling down the stretch. It's something that worries me a little bit, but I think as he continues to get more acclimated to becoming a play caller, he's a first-year offensive coordinator. So for me, I think he's still adjusting. And for me, I've been impressed at the progression week by week. I could understand why people would be a little concerned about that red zone play calling. But for me, as long as you continue to simplify it, it'll put LSU in the right position to be successful. I just would like to see a little bit more Kamorian Pimpton and Trey Green in the red zone.
Boy, would you.
Just because, like, we saw that during fall camp, and we saw how effective they were in that regard. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that come real games as opposed to fall camp. But all in all, look, I think he's progressing week by week and getting more comfortable in his play calling.
Trey Green has 2 catches this year,
and one's a touchdown from the 1 yard line.
By the way, Pimpton also has 2 catches. So I don't know that they're doing necessarily the best job of hyping those guys, getting those guys the ball like we were going to, especially given that Chris Hilton's been out and there's opportunities for receivers to step up. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed in that. I think the red zone play calling has been pretty bad. I think where he struggled with play calling, in between the 20s is more so, trying to think how I put this. Like, it's more so the simplicity of the play calls he's going for. I think that the running game he's tried to implement is a little too complex for what these guys are able to pull off. And part of being a good coach is adapting to what your team's able to do. And I think that that's been where he struggled, is he's calling a lot of like double pulls and, all these crazy plays that require a great pulling lineman. And these linemen aren't good at pulling. They aren't good. Will Campbell has been pretty bad at pulling, and he's your best offensive lineman. So I think they need to simplify it. Outside of that, I remember against USC, they really tried to force a running game down our throats. And it's like, it's just not working. You're really wasting a down. And I think that they moved into this pass the ball just enough to keep them honest type situation. And frankly, that's what I like, is that's who's best. Your best player on this team is Nussmeier at this point. Put the ball in his hands. Let him work his magic, man. Don't take the ball out of his hands. He's got 15 touchdowns this year. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I agree with that. And for me, I understand wanting to diversify the playbook and getting a little bit more creative in that regard and trying to utilize the run game. But what's saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for me, if Nussmeier's cooking and he's doing his thing just about every down, then keep the ball in his hands and throw some checkdowns to Caden Durham. Throw some checkdown to Caleb Jackson. He's a bowling ball in space. Nobody wants to touch him. Maybe that can be where you try to expand his game in the screen game. So I think this week against Ole Miss, I would like to see them implement more screens in their action, not necessarily trying to run the ball up the gut. They have a decent front four.
Right, like a shovel pass type situation,
some shovel passes.
Yeah.
If we're sitting here saying that, then, like, of course you can utilize Caden Durham on the outside, Caleb Jackson on the outside. But a thing that kind of caught me not necessarily by surprise, but caught my attention was little shuffle passes to Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson. Let them work in open space because they're scary in that regard. So I think little quick passes will be something that'll be fun to watch this weekend as well.
Was that a triple reverse we saw, around the corner reverse? I'm trying to think who might have taken that, but it reminded me of the 2010 one. Let's see here. D'Angelo Peterson. Anyways, yeah, I like little stuff like that when you're struggling with the running game. Absolutely. Now, here's my thing. A 65-35 pass run balance with this football team doesn't scare me. I'm fine with that, right? pass the
I would
ball.
love to see. You think running the ball 35% of the time is okay for this team?
Yeah. Now
You don't think it's too
probably
much?
60-40 would probably be more ideal. But no, I don't a 2-to-1 ratio. I mean, Nussmeier's cooking. And until Caden Durham or another running back
Oh, no,
goes out there.
Preston, I'm saying I completely agree with you. I'm
Yeah.
saying that's almost too much running. I'm almost saying I
Oh,
wanna keep the ball in
oh.
Nussmeier's hands
Well,
more
hold up. Let me
than
tell
almost
you
doing
this
it
though.
70-30, 75-25.
If you go out and tell a coach who's not named Mike Leach,
Right,
that's your
right, because then you're
balance,
just going straight air raid. I
they're gonna
completely
like,
understand.
whoa,
Yeah,
yeah, no, Les Miles is rolling over in his grave, even
right,
hearing me mention that. But like that 2-to-1, that's fine with me because
right. I agree.
that's where your team is good at. And until your running game proves they're worth more, just use the running game just enough to keep them honest. Because okay, when you start to get into like 80+% passing,
Predictability is one. Yeah, no
predictability
doubt,
is
no doubt.
absolutely a problem, so you gotta be cognizant of those kind of things. But and we're talking a lot about the offense, but I think that's because the offense is the key to not only winning this game, but this season taking off. Me and Mike talk a lot about the offense. So like Mike likes the offense a lot. It's the defensive issues. And I'm like, well, here's the problem. I think the defense is what it is. I think they've got a good front seven that's emerging, but like what player do you think on this defense could burst out and be so much better that this defense turns the corner? And it's a 53rd ranked defense so far right now on scoring defense, or at least it was before the bye. I'm sure it didn't change that much. What player could emerge to really just change this offense, this defense to where
Yeah,
they're killers?
that's a fantastic question because Brian Kelly always talks about that. He's always like, "We don't have anybody coming through the door right now. We don't have a five-star coming through the door today to help us today. You have what you have." And like you said, the front seven's been solid. I've been very pleased with the front four. I've been
Right.
pleased with the linebacker
Me
play. I
too.
love what Whit Weeks
Me
brings.
too.
I love what Greg Penn does as well. So your front seven is fine. It's just about working your secondary in the mix and trying to get them in a groove. And look, I'm not sure if you'll see that this year, but like you said earlier, the way to slow down Dart and Trey Harris is to get in the damn backfield. And so what, excuse my language for saying damn, but
No,
in the
you're
dang backfield,
excusable.
you get in the backfield and you hit Jackson Dart and you pressure him and make him uncomfortable. And man, I think that puts you in a beautiful position to slow down a team like Ole Miss because Savion Jones and Braden Swinson, whether people want to admit it or not on the outside, I think they're a top 3, top 5 defensive end duo in the country. And I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Braden Swinson's putting up a fantastic year, as is Savion Jones. And he talked about it today. He said that they're the best defensive end duo in the country. And the numbers are speaking for themselves again in that regard, like I said a second ago. So, look, you put some pressure on the quarterback, you get some pressure in the backfield, and you and I's worries about the secondary slowly start to fade out and put this team in a really good position down the stretch of the season.
And look, Bo Swindle brings up that Ahmad Bro
Beautiful.
has been a pleasant surprise. Of course he has. Of course he has. And look, really a lot of the defensive tackles have been a pleasant surprise. I was really worried when Jacoby and Gillivan. Oh boy, that scared me. I don't know if that was loud for y'all there, but that was so loud for me. I'm sorry. I whacked the thing with my elbow. But anyways, I thought LSU was in serious trouble. Gio Paez has probably been a little disappointing based on you kind of expected a consistent starter on a good defense at Wisconsin there. But yeah, I mean, the defensive ends and these are guys who were on the team last year. They just improved. They got better. But I think ultimately where this defense is, and like, I think they're paying above their NFL pay grade. You know what I mean? Like, where's the first rounder on this front seven?
I mean, I think this is why you pay Bo Davis the big bucks because you can allow him to go out and develop these players to become serviceable pieces. Obviously,
Right.
Gio Paez hasn't been a superstar, just a serviceable piece. Ahmad Bro is a true freshman playing in the SEC. Defensive tackle is one of the hardest positions to adjust to in college football,
Sure.
like specifically in the SEC. So for me to see Ahmad Bro be a serviceable freshman is just fine. I think his ceiling is tremendous. Brian Kelly speaks highly of him for a reason. So I think your front four has been fantastic. Obviously, Whit Weeks is an outlier in the front seven. I think he's an emerging superstar. I think he's a player that as he continues to get more and more developed and more savvy with the coaching that's being provided for him, I think the sky's the limit for him. But like you said, right now, if you're looking at that front seven, you're not necessarily looking at a first-round draft pick, somebody jumping off of the page, just some pieces that are gelling.
Well, and let's put it like this. Not a first rounder at this point in time.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying? Like, there might be a very young player. I'm looking at you, Dominic McKinley, who eventually comes in and develops into that kind of talent level. It's just not it's not manifesting itself right now. There's no guy who will be a first round pick in this year's draft. Really, on the whole defense. You know, it's just a bunch of serviceable players, but they've got a lot of these serviceable guys playing much better.
While we're talking about the defense, I think could you pull up that comment from Bo Swindle? He posted it just now talking about Toviano playing the spot that Perkins played. I think that's a really good comment just because you're going to be looking for some differences in this defensive backfield. It's something that Preston's talked about a couple of weeks ago, is really just getting Toviano on the field in any way, shape, or form, whether it's getting in at the star, safety, cornerback, wherever you can kind of slot him in there. He's an impactful player. So this week, obviously I'm sitting back looking at that 4-2-5 defense that they are likely going to play. I think Major Burns, whether you keep him at star or throw him back at safety, I think you got to get Toviano out on the field. And Preston and I have been on the same page about that since fall camp. So I'm intrigued to see what happens there. It's not necessarily the spot that Perkins is playing, but he's going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage, which is a little bit like Perkins.
I just wonder if Toviano has enough meat in his boots to, play that position, because you got to get in the box and you got to take some blocks. Here's the deal. Giving them 6 more starts, who do you think will improve more, Toviano or Major Burns?
I mean, I think that's an obvious given.
Exactly. That's where I'm at with this defensive backfield. Is you're not getting enough out of the guys you've got there, and you're rolling with a bunch of veterans. We're talking about guys like Sage Ryan. You know what I mean? Who do you think is going to improve more, Sage Ryan or Deshaun Spears in 6 more starts? I think
it's a complete given. When you look at upside potential within this defensive scheme under Blake Baker, you obviously look at youngsters like a Toviano, who's a second-year Tiger, a first-year Tiger in Deshaun Spears. The upside's fantastic. And, Preston, something that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago was the lack of, I guess, not lack thereof, but just this coaching staff not wanting to play the youngsters. I think that narrative is gone. And
it's gone.
It is. I think the narrative that Brian Kelly doesn't want to play youngsters is done. He talked about it during Monday's press conference. Obviously, we've seen Deshaun Spears start, Caden Durham become the lead back. We've seen young guys like Ahmad Breaux touch the field. He's talked about throwing in linebackers, Xavier Atkins, throwing Devon. It's done. He's ready to play the youngsters, and I think that's a really, really bright spot for LSU in the future. And somebody just said PJ Woodland as well, another true freshman. So, look, I think you're putting yourself in a really good position for the future, because once you play 5 games for LSU, you're no longer a true freshman. You become a vet at that point.
I don't want to shift gears to a new topic here, but I got B-Rock here watching from Southwest Florida. Go Tigers and FU Milton. I just want to shout out to all my Florida people right now. Hope y'all stay safe. We know this hurricane's nothing to play with. I hope if you're in the Tampa area, you're getting out of there, man, because it doesn't look good. We all know that. Trust me. Us in Louisiana, we understand it all too well. Zack was actually a victim of Hurricane Katrina living in New Orleans at the time. So trust me when I say we understand. But talking about this defense, look, guys, I want to see on the field a bunch of Deshaun Spears. Okay. Look, Jordan Allen and Jordan Gilbert, although you're kind of looking at them as kind of your veteran, hard quotes on that veteran presence, because they're not first-year freshmen. You know what I mean? They're both sophomores. I'm not giving up on them. I still want to see them out there getting reps and getting better. PJ Woodland is a guy I'd like to see a bunch of. Who else am I thinking of here? Oh, and of course, Toviano, of course, right? I'm not saying I don't want to see other guys like Zy Alexander. I think has to be your starting corner. I'm not moving past Ashton Stamps. He's also in that second-year guy. I mean, I think you just need to roll with these young guys and see how much improvement you can get out of them. And I think Toviano's a big part of that. I mean, because frankly, I'm not sure I see too much of a difference between when you have, PJ Woodland versus Ashton Stamps out there.
Well, I think you make a really good point, Preston. Just talking about, we're not necessarily looking for true freshmen to come out there and take these big time reps.
Right.
Young players are also second year players too, and that's like a guy like Ashton Stamps. That's a guy like Javian Toviano. Even Kylan Jackson is a redshirt freshman. He's been here. He's done that. So even though he didn't see the field much as a true freshman, he was in the locker room. He was with these
Kylan
guys.
Jackson.
Learn a lot. So that's another safety that I'd like to see, whether it's at safety or star. So look, you got young players. Brian Kelly's throwing him in the fire. I'm excited about the long-term potential of this roster right now. That's for sure.
See if you can get DJ Pickett to come play a few games early. You know what I mean?
Here's
Here's a good question. I'll call it the Derek Stingley question. Do you think if DJ Pickett were on campus right now, he'd be starting?
It's a good question. And honestly, yeah. I mean, if you put a couple more pounds on him.
Yeah, I mean, right. Well, here's the deal. He's a thicker corner anyways. They call him a corner, but like a lot of people want to call him a safety.
It's a tough call for me. Like, obviously, to kind of keep it in the moment, yes, of course, I'm going to say DJ Pickett. But for me, I'm a big fan of Ashton Stamps. I think he has a lot of potential. He's a really good football player. I think Zy Alexander's your savvy veteran that can help kind of take the pressure off of a guy like Ashton Stamps, a guy like PJ Woodland, even J.K. Johnson's been thrown in the fire. Do I think DJ Pickett realistically would start right now? Probably not. But you give him a little bit more time to get in the weight room and get accustomed to the scheme. Yeah, I mean, he'd be seeing the field, that's for sure.
Coach Preston Guy would start him. I don't care if he's 17-year-olds. Look what Ryan Williams is doing. Put Pickett on Williams. Let's go.
Unreal.
Whose 17-year-old is better?
Right.
While we're at it, let's put Colin Hurley out there too. Anyways, guys, we got one last ad break we're going to get to. I actually already see some good comments there. Get your comments out. I'm going to just kind of rapid fire try to get as many as I can because I think we got some good comments tonight. So anyways, guys, I preach all the time about trying to add locally owned businesses that we experience firsthand and I know is going to provide a good experience to our users. Remember the story I was telling you about Celebrity, how I just used them for years and I reached out to their marketing person. That's how all of our sponsors are lined up. And guys, who fits right in with that is Capital City Grill. I went out there just the other day with my little boy. We had a great time there. I got him the fried catfish and I had the catfish Acadiana where it's etouffee on a bed of catfish. Instead of rice, it's fries. Okay, guys, really good stuff. So we're excited to add them for this football season, guys. They're located on 100 Lafayette Street in downtown Baton Rouge. Guys, Capital City Grill is your ideal lunch and dinner stop for a casual dining experience. Capital City Grill features a variety of sandwiches, burgers, pastas, seafood. They've got steaks with everything priced at $30 or below for an affordable experience, right? Of course, I say almost everything because there are some market priced items that do sometimes exceed that much based on the market. Don't forget to celebrate a Tigers win at their Sunday morning brunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Guys, you can book your reservation online at capitalcitygrill.net. Make sure to let them know that TigerBait sent you in. And guys, if you've taken a look at this sign behind me over my shoulder, you probably got a good guess at our next sponsor. Very proud to introduce y'all to Rejuvame.
At Rejuvame, we specialize in medically monitored hormone and weight loss therapy, giving you the energy you need for all life's challenges. Let us be your age-defying clinic. Restore me, refuel me, Rejuvame. RejuvameMedical.com.
And I still got it. Let me take this down while I do my ad read. Looking to rejuvenate your health? Try Rejuvame Medical. Their expert team offers GLP-1 medications for weight loss and wellness. Feel your best with Rejuvame. Visit RejuvameMedical.com today. All right, guys, and Genesis of Lafayette. Let's hear from them. There's a reason they sell more Genesis than any other dealer in Lafayette. In Louisiana. For the very best experience of a new SUV or a luxury sedan, give them a call to set up your free test drive today, 877-856-2961, and tell them TigerBait sent you in. And guys, we open every show with them and we close every show because they are our title sponsor, making everything we do possible here, guys. It's none other than Celebrity Theaters. Guys, did y'all know they offer private events? Whether you're looking for a corporate event, birthday party, whatever you may be looking for, guys, hit them up. They got theater. They have 8 or 10 auditoriums based on which location you go to. Perfect event. They're proud to offer back birthday packages for children of all ages. Let them handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to clean up. For more information or to book your birthday party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or give them an email, events@celebritytheaters.com. And of course, my mom's actually taken a little class out there her 5th grade gifted class at Parkview Oaks Elementary. Going to be taking them out there. In fact, one of her kids said he's a big fan of the show. So shout out Obi in her class, man. Big fan of the show, but they're excited to go out to celebrity theaters this weekend. We got a super chat here. Let's go. He took the rapid fire seriously. Rodney Scott, do you think players wearing the number 7 jersey has been jinxed since Jonathan Giles? Oh boy. Do we have a list? Start talking about that and let me see if I can pull up a list.
Honestly, like obviously you can talk about Giles and stuff and how it kind of killed the aura.
Wait. Giles.
Obviously it killed the aura of the number 7 jersey, but look, the last couple of years it hasn't been necessarily this big flex to wear number 7 right now, and it sucks to see Harold Perkins not being able to rep it right now, because I feel like that was a guy who could kind of bring it back up to what it used to be, kind of wearing that number 7 and how important it was. Obviously, he went down with an injury, and prayers up to Perkins. But yeah, I think it's kind of lost the aura for the most part right now, and I'm intrigued to see where Brian Kelly goes, which direction he goes in for the foreseeable future.
It's interesting.
Look the list. Could you share it?
Well, all I could find is the Reveille, so I got to go off of memory for like the next couple years after that. So so Giles, right? So you had Fournette, Badger, all those people beforehand. Then Grant Delpit. Okay, look. I understand he had a down year in 2019. The dude did win the Thorpe Award. I'm just saying, wearing number 7. Okay, like Jamar Chase, who obviously would have been every bit of that, but he opted out as soon as he put it on. And then Derek Stingley Jr., which he didn't really play, did he? But he was 3rd overall draft pick. And then I'm trying to remember since then, it's been pretty rough, right? It's been, Will Campbell, but he's not really wearing the actual jersey, is he? But I mean, Will Campbell, he's doing just fine. He's definitely was deserving last year as well. So, I don't know. I don't know, man. I personally think that they should be a little more selective with it and wait until they have a surefire thing before they pick a number 7. I think Perkins might have been a little aggressive because he did have a down year last year, and we didn't know for sure if he was going to be that guy or not. So I think you just need to be more selective with it. Look, year in and year out, if you don't have a guy who's that guy, just don't give one. You know what I mean? Like, just don't.
That was what my question was going to be. Like, if you didn't give it to Perkins this year, it would be A, who would you give it to then?
Just let Will Campbell be the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that's fine. You got one number 7. So what is not on the field? I'll say this about the number 7 tradition. The big downside of that would be the coveted single-digit jerseys, which are so popular in players and, even coaches are using as incentives. I mean, like you kind of lose it by making it like this tradition thing. So it isn't interesting. Ça c'est bon, café acadiana. Oh, Yasha, j'adore la café acadiana. Very good. Let's see here. Butte. Oh, Kashan Butte. Oh,
I was waiting for either you or someone to say that. I wasn't going to do that.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, I look at this as like a similar situation as the Madden curse. Athlete stock go up. Recently it has been pretty good, actually. Yeah. I'm just saying in general, like, remember it was like a 20-year stretch of like, ooh, Michael Vick gets
No. I'm saying like recently you're starting to see that number 7 tradition kind of become the Madden curse in a way.
Right. So here's what I'm putting out is it's not really that the Madden is a curse so much as anytime you give an athlete a lofty designation based on his previous performance, you're usually giving it to him after a career high performance, right? And typically when you peak, where do you go after a peak? You just go down, right? Exactly. I just think that's kind of the ebbs and flows of sports, and it kind of makes sense. Now, obviously on the college level, you're supposed to get better and better every year, but maybe a little bit of that is kind of what's going on. That's my best explanation. I don't know. You asked for an explanation of it, and that's the best I got, man. Outside of that, it's just jinxed. It's juju. It's voodoo or something like that. Anyways, guys. Look, guys, it's been a great show tonight. I appreciate everybody for watching. It's been a lot of fun talking with y'all. We're gonna close on our game prediction, and I'm gonna let Zach take the floor first. Zach, do you have any predictions for the game? Have you put out a score prediction?
I haven't yet. My score prediction will come out on Friday. For right now, sitting here on Tuesday, October 8th, I'm going to sit here and say, assuming Trey Harris plays, I think Ole Miss ultimately comes out and the offense is a little bit too much for the defensive backs of LSU. I think Ole Miss, if Trey Harris plays, is going to come out and win 37-31. That's where I think it is right now. Obviously, I think that's going to make a lot of LSU fans a little bit upset. But as I continue to do more kind of scouting, more evaluations and stuff, that could shift sooner rather than later. But for me right now, I just think the offense that they have right now is going to be a little bit too much for LSU's defense. And I'm not going to try to contradict myself here because I'm well aware that in the two SEC games that they've played, they've scored 24 and 17 points. They haven't necessarily been phenomenal against SEC foes. So for me, I just think when I look at LSU's defense, it's not as up there as a Kentucky and South Carolina. So for right now, I'm going to say Ole Miss pulls this one out. Score prediction around that 37-31, 34-31 mark. I think it's going to be a tight game going into the fourth quarter. But look, if Trey Harris isn't out there, I think that catapults LSU into a really good position. I really do think that LSU has a good chance to win this game. I'm just not quite sure they do it.
God dog it. They put the pressure on me here. The guy got the. You related to Matt Nagy?
Everybody asked that. Unfortunately, I'm not. Great person.
You know ball better than him, man. Come on now. Look, here's the deal. I think this is going to be a close competitive game based on each team's body of work. I think LSU is going to stay in this game. And I ultimately look at this like, yeah, I think it's going to be back and forth. And I think it's going to be a situation where Nussmeier takes the ball and scores late in this game and puts LSU in good position to capture a victory. Unfortunately, let's say you give Jackson Dart and that Ole Miss offense the ball with 59 seconds to go. When it really counts, can you get a stop? And I just haven't seen it yet. Against USC, Matt Miller did anything he wanted on that final drive and just drove the ball down and got a win. By the way, South Carolina with a backup quarterback, Robbie Ashford, who I think he had 2 completions in the second half, and one of them was on the final drive. They drove the ball down your throat and lined up for the game-tying field goal, just missed it, right? So I think that Blake Baker is calling a defense above the talent he's working with right now, and I think when the game is on the line and it matters, I don't know that they can stop Jackson Dart. I don't. So based on what I've seen already, I do think this could be a very good opportunity for LSU to prove that they've taken these steps forward. I'm particularly enthusiastic about the running game development and where this offense could go. I think this is going to be something like a 27-30 type game, but ultimately I just don't trust this defense getting a stop on Jackson Dart when they need it. And what are the odds that LSU has a 2-score lead going toward the end of this game? I think not high. You have to score with just no time remaining to win, because this defense, I just have zero faith in them getting a stop like that. So I am picking LSU to lose this game. I'm still not freaking out. I'm not panicking based on the schedule, what's going on here, but we'll see. Ultimately, what we think goes on doesn't really matter. All that matters is when they say hut, who makes the next play. So, guys, I appreciate y'all for watching tonight. If y'all enjoyed this show, please hit like or share the show out to your friends. It really helps with our analytics. And every week I look at the analytics of these shows, and it always blows me away how many people are watching the show without actually subscribing to the channel. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. We continue to grow. I'm sure we're among one of the largest LSU content channels out there. Hit subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you know when we go live. You know we don't go live all that often. I do my show on Monday nights. Mike does his live show with Buddy Wednesday nights, and then we do our post-game show. So really, during football season, you only get 3 notifications for a live show. And outside of football season, you're only going to get 1. So there's a lot of channels that Bell can be really risky on, not ours. But anyways, guys, I can't express enough how much I appreciate y'all. Any Florida fans, Florida residents watching, please stay safe in this hurricane. And look, we'll see y'all Saturday after the game. And of course, Zack will be back with me next Monday. So appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great night.